So hold tight, buckle up. You finna go for a ride. You're on a journey, but everything is gonna be okay. You will have a moment that you will be able to breathe because again, there is life after heart disease.
Hello, I'm Bethany Kime, and I'm serving as the host for this interview. I'd like to welcome our wonderful panel full of friends and fellow heart warriors. I am also a cardiomyopathy patient and know the sting of an unexpected diagnosis, along with the blessings and sorrow of having a genetic condition. I have hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, or HCM, and an implanted defibrillator. I welcome you, our audience, to this insightfully real patient to patient discussion on life with a cardiomyopathy. Each of you has such a unique journey and perspective. We thank you for sharing those today. In regards to your journey, was there any step on it, perhaps in getting diagnosed or treated, or in another way related to your care that really required a lot of self advocacy or advocacy from another on your behalf? Did you ever really have to fight to make something happen?
I mean, I was fighting to be seen and heard by my doctor since I was 13, but I was dismissed for many, many years, and it wasn't until I was 26 and had my cardiac arrest while driving that I was actually taken seriously. But even then, I was still dismissed by a lot of doctors. So I've had to fight my entire life to be seen, even with symptoms. I don't know if anyone else has been through like a similar path or if it was just like a sudden thing for you guys.
I feel the same, and I think it's interesting and like hearing from everybody's individual stories that like I don't know, when I first looked up, my cardiomyopathy, it was like asymptomatic. First sign is death. And then like hearing from everybody, you start realizing like, wait, no, there were signs. Of course, like we didn't know that they were signs at the time, but then it is hard, especially I think being such a young person, and I think we've all dealt with that, is that you're not taking that seriously. So you learn very quickly, like either you doubt yourself or you have the opposite effect of like, I have to learn how to advocate for myself. And I think obviously that comes easier when you do get a diagnosis and go, see, I wasn't making this up. And so I think there is a lot of struggles when you look at like pediatric care, like when you go first and they just look like, no, you're so young, or no, that's probably something else. Like I experienced that, when I was fainting, and like, hey, I had this, and my pediatrician was just like, no, like, that's just normal for people your age, for your gender. You're probably, dehydrated. It's not heart related. Let's not even, like actually get testing and think, cardiomyopathy. And I think that's really sometimes so hard when you're a young person because you're supposed to listen to your elders to the doctor, but then they're
Yeah,
not actually listening to you. Yeah.
you put your trust in them because they're the professional and they should know, but they don't seem to recognize when I feel particularly if you're like a young woman as well. That's always dismissed as anxiety or like depression, or it's just normal for your age. It's your hormones. It's your like, yeah. It's horrible because you think that, yeah, you start doubting yourself because they're essentially gaslighting you, aren't they? And you feel like you're going crazy, and then when you are told that there is something wrong, you're kind of like, oh wow, okay, I wasn't crazy. And then that is a whole like process to try and you have to undo everything you thought you knew in a way, and realize that what you did thought originally was right. It's really confusing and difficult to come to terms with. Well, it has been for me anyway.
Amy, what were the symptoms you were having?
So I was struggling with like a lot of like lightheadedness. I was getting really like dizzy and faint a lot of the time, and then my first big proper faint was in the middle of a science lesson. And funnily enough, it's really funny, but we were actually having a lesson about the heart, and we were watching a video about like an athlete and how the heart works basically. And I started feeling really funny, and I stood up and just left the lesson. And as I got to the door, I fell, and my teacher caught me, and I woke up outside on a bench, and everything was all sort of fuzzy. And I always describe it as like a Monet painting, because that's what it was like. So yeah, it sort of started around then, but no one really took me seriously. No one took me to the doctors. The school didn't think, oh, this is strange for her to just randomly be passing out. So yeah, I just got dismissed basically until it started happening again more and more. And then I went to the doctors, and it was all, oh, it's just anxiety, you're fine, it's normal for your age, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's absolutely tragic when they always say, oh, it's normal for your age for things like that happening. And I don't really think that's how it works. It's definitely not. Let's talk scars. Raise your hand if you have them from your treatments as a heart patient. I am not surprised at all to see that all of our hands are raised. What do you think about people seeing them? And could you share with us where they are and from what?
So, first of all, I used to be very embarrassed. I used to be trying to hide it. If I would go to the pool, I'd be like, "Nah, I'm gonna wear a t-shirt. I don't want to get sunburned," which was an excuse. Um, this was when I was younger. I got an ICD implanted when I was 17. So when you're a teenager, that's not something you want to broadcast. But now that I'm 34. To me, it's a battle scar. It's it represents the struggle that I've dealt with and that I've overcome, and I could care less if you see it. As a matter of fact, I'm almost proud to say I have a scar because I know what's behind that scar, not only literally but figuratively. So, for me, it's almost like I don't want to say the word trophy because it's not a trophy, but it is a testament to how far I've come, just to keep me in keep me reminded saying, "Hey, you went through this, and this, and you're still here. Don't be embarrassed, don't be shy, don't hide it." Um, so no, I'm not embarrassed. Not at all.
Yes, I have several scars. I have the pacemaker scar, I have the heart transplant scar, and then I also have the C-section scar. And the thing about my pacemaker scar, it was actually three scars at once upon a time. And the last doctor that I went to see, he was able to make it back into one. So I was so grateful to have had that doctor do that for me because he could tell that I was so self-conscious about it. I used to be very self-conscious. I had my wires removed almost 2 years ago now. And so they had to open it back up. And this time, my scar is not as nice as I would want it to be. So I have a little bit become self-conscious again because this time it have the scar tissue from the staples. So
I love what everyone has already said. And like, I sometimes wish, like, oh yeah, I wish mine was more visible. I'd have to show my left breast to really see that I have a gnarly scar where you're like, yeah, I'm so proud of it. But I think, just hearing from everybody on this path of living with a cardiomyopathy, it isn't a one and done surgery, like some other conditions. Like it's like, hey, if I have an ICD, I'm getting it replaced, I'm getting cut open the same thing, or here if I need to remove my wires, or like, oh, when I get a transplant, that's another scar. And like, your body does, get cut up a bit, like in order to like help it, but being able to I think having doctors, well, specifically surgeons who understand that like, hey, I'm a woman, or hey, I'm a little self-conscious. And when they're applying that and seeing you as the whole person, when they take you into that and lay you on that operating table, that they see you as like, hey, I'm the one who's living with this scar every day. Like, if you could maybe make it a little smaller, thinner, and finding those doctors who kind of look at you than just being like, well, I'm gonna cut here and do this, or like at least talk with you and find the best, option. But it is true, like, okay, yeah, like sometimes some days you're just like, I'm not feeling myself, or hey, this is, I've been cut up a little bit, but it's I think we're all beautiful for sure. And I think it's even more beautiful that we have these scars, like Julio was saying, like to show proof that, we've been through a lot. And that is that kind of proof to show that we've, a lot of us have conquered death and are living every day.
I think it's absolutely beautiful that we all wear our scars so proudly, and we know where they come from and what they mean to us. And I hope us being able to continue to looking at them as these beautiful things that we have on us, not because of something that we chose, but because of something that we had to go through, that it helps other people on their journey. Um, we have had 2 in-person showings so far of the Sudden Cardiac Art Exhibition, and Adolfo and Amy were both artists in it. I'm going to show Amy's piece for a moment because it is the perfect way to explain my next topic. To me, this piece of art illustrates body positivity. I look at this and I think beauty. Then I see the bionic bulge and I still think beauty. I love how the young woman in the picture shows such serenity at the same time she shows her implanted defibrillator. Amy, please tell us a little bit about your process in creating this masterpiece. What inspired you and what message were you sending?
I think you summed it up pretty well, to be honest. I just wanted to show that there is like beauty in our scars, essentially. They show what we've been through, and we should be proud of them because not everybody could do what we've done. Very special, like, minority of people that survive sudden cardiac arrest and are still here to tell the story. And I kind of wanted to portray that through this piece, that she's proud of it. It's like she has peace because she knows if it's going to happen again, it will save her life. And that is way more precious than having a scar there that you don't really like, if that makes sense. So like, it's a part of her, and it's beautiful. It's her strength, essentially.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. And you absolutely know how much I love this piece and what it means to me. And it's absolutely beautiful. So thank you so much for creating it. Now I'd like to ask our panel, what has been your path with body positivity throughout the span of your patient journey? Remembering it's important to share, even if you're still walking down that path.
I was absolutely terrified when I first had my ICD implanted. I was terrified how it was going to look to everyone, but that only lasted for about a month, I'd say, because I found you guys, Bethany and Hannah, and just hearing your own stories and your views on the scars and having an ICD just completely changed my mindset on it. And now I'm so proud of it. I show everyone who's interested. I tattoo for a living, so all my clients sometimes they ask me about my heart journey, and I quite happily share everything with them, and I'll let them touch it and give it a little wiggle and feel my wire and everything. I just want people to know that they exist and how amazing they are and how they keep people alive. Is like, I don't know, you guys just changed my mind on everything, and it's for the better, and I'm really proud of it, and I'm really proud of you guys.
Thank you, thank you. Definitely got teary-eyed. Because it's the whole point, is to be able to make sure others feel beautiful in their scars. So
You
thank you.
succeed.
Like that painting's soon to be on this wall for sure. Because we feel blessed to Amy have gifted it to us. Because, I mean, I'm very into like representation and the power that it has, and seeing that painting, I don't think I've ever seen like it done so well, like it impacts so well of like, wow, that's how I want to feel, and I've been able to feel that way. Of course it was a process. And for me, like getting it, I think I was like, you know what, like scars are cool, like, like what, like get this device. But then also seeing, Bethany, who had like more struggles with body image, and seeing her embrace it, and that really like opened my eyes of like, and I think in a way it was a bonding moment for us, because I think she fully embraced it because my ICD had saved my life. And I think having it had saved my life. It meant a lot more. So it couldn't be something like, even though sometimes when you're laying on a, like sleeping on a side and then you're like, oh my gosh, it's really annoying me right now, that you're like, but you can keep annoying me, you know, because you saved my life and I hope you keep doing so. But like that thing of like, oh yeah, how do I, fully accept my body when, my body is also like low-key betraying me because my heart is messed up. So I felt very like, yeah, represented in that painting. And I think also like when Julio had said of like hiding your scars when you go to the pool and stuff, because that is the most time that your scars really are like, and being from Miami, like, we were always, trying to go to the beach and be in the pool and stuff like that. And I remember I went to a camp that was all heart kids, and that I think was such a different experience because everybody had scars on their body with their bathing suits. And nobody, at first, a little bit of the older people were a little hiding it. And then they're like, you know what? Like, this is the one place where nobody is like, looking at you like that. They're looking at you like, hey, same, like, yeah, man, scars, let's go. And I think that's really, what we try to pull with our like bionic babe thing of like, yeah, this is a club and we should be proud and we're here, even if we have our bad days of we're feeling a little bit more self-conscious or insecure, but that we're here to, embrace it.
And I just absolutely want to say how proud I am of all of you because I know that we all kind of started our heart journey at young ages as we're still growing and learning and deciding who we want to be and who we are and trying to fit in. And so the fact that we kept making it through and as scars were put on our body along the journey, that we still embrace them. And I think that's like just absolutely so beautiful. And I'm so proud of all of you for that. I well remember when my own bandages came off 6 weeks after I had my first defibrillator, which was an SICD implanted. I was in college as a dance major, wearing leotards to class, and now I had this rather large bionic bulge on my side. And as a dancer, I spent most of my days in front of the mirrors, analyzing my body, every little single part of it. And here I was, one day, finally ready to confront my new reality, and the bandages came off. And I even amazed myself to say that I actually loved my new bionic body. And I smiled at that young girl in the mirror. And though I was scarred and I was bulging, I loved who she was becoming. Um, Sorry. Excuse my emotions because I know sometimes when I tell my story, I cry a little. Not for who I am now, but for the little girl who went through so much. So, moving on, those are just one part of being a heart warrior, the physical scars and deformities. And I know the word deformity sounds a little harsh, but I think it's the correct one for when I think of my SICD that was bulging out of my side. I embraced it, but it wasn't normal. People at times thought it was an iPhone stuck inside my body. But on to the mental scars, and I think we'd all have to agree that we have those as well. I absolutely do. How could we not, really? And I believe there's times to bear those scars as well, especially when we're here patient to patient. So, being on a heart journey is undeniably traumatic. How has the trauma you faced shaped who you are?
So for me, um, with my HCM, it manifests itself more with arrhythmias, VTAC. My heart really does beat to its own drum. So, um, and with given the past things that have happened, um, I learned that I cannot let the mental fear stop me from living. I saw this movie and the lady was telling the daughter, stopping me from living is not going to stop me from dying. And I was like, man, that's so true. Because like at times I would be like, what can I do so that I don't get arrhythmias? What shouldn't I do? Am I getting up too fast? Am I getting up too slow? Am I not moving enough? Am I moving too much? Am I talking too fast? Am I getting too excited? And then I'm just like, I can't live like that. I cannot that anxiety and that fear and that worry, it just keeps you stuck. So for me, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do what I want. I'm gonna go where I want to go, and I'm gonna, you know, travel where I want to travel, and whatever you want to do. That and for me, it's like, okay, so I'm not gonna worry. I'm not gonna listen so much to my mind, and I'm just gonna gradually do what I want to do. I can't. It's not a death sentence for us. It just sometimes feels like it is, you know. And so then we can't live like it is. We have to live like every single day is a blessing. We need to take advantage of it. We need to make the most out of it because we're still here. It's like what Hannah said, we conquer death. So if we conquer death, we need to live.
Yeah, ditto to everything you just said, Julio.
I mean, I was absolutely terrified for the longest time after I came out of hospital. And then I realized very much like you that I should try and live my life. But at the same time, it's very difficult with all the restrictions I've got. Um, I don't, I'm not allowed to do anything adrenaline inducing. And as someone with a lot of anxiety, that's really difficult to do. But hopefully, once I've had my next surgery, I might be able to do a little bit more with my life and be able to live more to the fullest. But when you're in hospital and you get told every single day that your risk of sudden death is extremely high, it makes things really difficult. Really, really difficult.
Kind of when Hannah said that a few minutes ago to backdoor Julio, he said it so well. I mean, it was just so well put together. It was like I could put myself in his shoes and remember that time in my life. So to me, it just feels so good to be on a panel with someone that can say that, and I can relate to that because at times you really do feel stuck. So I'm just grateful to have heard that. And it's not me saying it, it's actually someone else experience, but I can relate.
Absolutely. And Kimberly, I wanted to ask you too, what would you like to say to surgeons about scars?
If I could if I could sit a surgeon down, I think I would run it down for him simply because I feel like what they should understand is you're performing a surgery in this moment. But when I get up, I'm going to go live a life. So I would just tell them to, whenever someone is speaking to you, don't hear their words, listen to their heart in their words. And they will tell you exactly what they need from you. And if you follow that instruction that they're feeding to you with their heart, that's what will make them the best surgeon that ever walked the planet, just because they're in tune with their patients. It makes all the difference because that surgeon knew what it meant to me, that I look decent enough to wear certain types of shirts because I am a female. And when he did that and I woke up, all I could do is weep in gratitude that he thought of me to do that for me. And every day I look at my scar, I smile and I tell everybody what he done for me because I was just so worried at what it would look like. And he did a beautiful job.
That's absolutely beautiful. And Hannah, if you could just touch a little bit on how it was with your first surgeon and being so young and getting your defibrillator.
Going off like what Amy said, like, the minute I was diagnosed, they're like, we're surprised you haven't dropped dead already. You have it, your thickness is severe. You gonna stop doing adrenaline-based stuff. Don't even watch scary movies. You're just like, you were paralyzed into fear because you're like, oh my gosh, like I was only 14. I kind of still want to live a little bit more longer. So you get like, scared into like following a thing, and then once they're like, hey, I was having VTAC, my thickness had grown, they're like, hey, now you get an ICD. And then I was like, whoa, this will be great because I won't have to be on edge anymore, like walking on eggshells, thinking like if I needed to run, someone was chasing me, like the hypotheticals in my brain that I'm just running through because I'm a young kid, something happens, or what if I'm like late and I got to run up the stairs or something at school. And then, you know, I didn't even think about really how I would look. I was just like, yes, get me the device. Like, I need it. I'm scared. I've been kind of like not fully living, I feel. So I would great get it. I didn't even process. They're over here telling me it's gonna be a silver dollar size. I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but okay, like it will go here. And that's where I really appreciate that my surgeon was thinking more for me than I was for myself because I was still so new to all of this that he was like, you're at that point now, I was 16, like, you're a 16-year-old girl. I'm gonna place it behind your breast. I'm gonna hide it my best. I'm gonna do the scar like this. And he thought about me, and it's just like what you said, Kimberly, when they think of you as, again, like the patient, as the whole patient, of like not just that moment of what's gonna be the fastest way to do it, is what's gonna be the best for this person to go live their life after and not have to, worry so much. And besides me now having a device, now I'm also worried like, oh, this is a whole huge scar and stuff. Like, we have so much to worry about already on an everyday basis with this conditions. So I felt very blessed to have that guy look out for me, that surgeon, because I was so overwhelmed with other stuff, and I was just happy to get something that I could keep on living my life with and not keep having that fear, of what could happen without having, intervention.
So I had to get my second implanted defibrillator because my SICD unfortunately had a battery issue, and so it was running out of battery. And so it's kind of scary thinking, oh my gosh, this device in me that was supposed to last at least 10 years, it's now only hit 5 years, and they're telling me, no, you have 90 days and you better take this out of you right now. And the girl I was then, who was able to embrace it and love it and always wanted to pose with it out and flaunting it, I realized also my heart condition had changed and unfortunately had gotten worse. And so unfortunately the SICD wasn't enough for me, and I needed a different kind of device, the device that my sister has. And I remember knowing like how hers is so beautifully hidden behind her breast, and I was like, I want that. I actually want to hide it now. And not that I don't want to hide my scars, I just didn't think, yes, I could wear my SICD on my side, but I still am not strong enough, and I will say this out loud right now, to wear a defibrillator on my chest like that. And I'm just not. And maybe one day in a couple years, I hope I will be, to be able to flaunt it and love it and say, look how sexy this is, but I couldn't. And I just fought, and it took me 3 surgeons until finally somebody listened to who I was and understood that I was still young and flawed and that I had issues that I couldn't come to accept yet, to hide it where they did now. Isn't it interesting that even with all the physical and mental scars, heart conditions are generally considered invisible or non-visible conditions? Most clothing and keeping quiet, like we've all discussed recently, can hide those scars and our conditions. So, do we make our condition non-visible, or does society? I know it's something to think about, so any thoughts?
Given that Adolfo and I are both in the minority here because we're the only 2 guys, I wanted to just basically mention that for us guys, we're supposed to be macho men, and we should be able to lift, and we should be able to, work out. And what do you mean you can't lift that table? Why can't you lift that? You have weight limitations? What are you talking about? You're a guy. Why can't you lift that? I've experienced that many times at work. Whereas, having a condition that's not outwardly visible, right? Because it's not like we have a broken leg or messed up arm or something. It's hard for people to understand just what it means because they can't see it. We're so afraid of what we can't see, and I think it's our job to be able to get that message out there that just because I don't look like I have a condition doesn't necessarily mean that I don't have any limitations or that I have something going on, just because I look fine. I mean, how am I supposed to look, Am I supposed to be like in a bed with baggy eyes and discolored, I don't know if it's happened to Adolfo, but it's happened to me so many times where, I can't lift after, a certain amount of weight. So, everybody just looks at me weird, like, why can't you lift that? You're a guy. So yeah, it's interesting looking at it from a male perspective versus a female perspective.
No, thank you for sharing that. Definitely needed to be heard for sure.
I agree, and I think because it isn't visible, it you because you don't look sick, you must not be sick, right? And I think, as heart patients, we go through that all the time, right? You park in the handicap space and they see you walk out and you look perfect. Why are you parking there, right? And like little do they know that you get tired walking, 1 meter away from the car. Like they don't know that, right? But I think it is right important that as heart patients that awareness comes out, right? Because not only heart patients experience that, but people dealing with mental illness, people dealing with anxiety, with depression, sometimes it isn't visible, right? Sometimes we mask it very, very well with a smile or with a laugh, and people think that just because of that we're not dealing with anything. I always say, just because I made it look easy doesn't mean that it was. And I think we deal with that a lot in as being heart patients because they don't see the trauma, right? They don't see the trauma in a transplant. They don't see the trauma of surgery. They just see, the post of, hey, like you're going into surgery, and then they see the post like 2 months later where you're out and about, right? But they didn't see, the cracking of the chest. They didn't see you vomiting every single morning for a week. Like they didn't see you going through anxiety and depression and not being able to get out of bed so that you can walk and get these tubes out of your side and out of your chest. And they didn't see any of that, right? And I feel like, how do you say, as a community, I feel for that because it's almost like they take away the struggle of what you had to go through and what you had to fight to get to where you are now, to look how you look now. Um, and I don't think it's fair, right? It's not fair because it's almost dismissive. It's frustrating that just because you don't look sick, you're perceived as not being sick. And like Amy said earlier, right? Like even doctors like tend to ignore certain things because you don't look a certain way, right? Because you come in looking perfect and fine. Like you must be fine, so you're just, wasting my time. Like, so definitely, yes, consider it because in a world where we have to explain all these things, I think it's great to bring awareness. But at the same time, too, like on a personal level, like who cares? You're amazing just as you are, and you don't have to explain to anybody what you're going through.
Seeing that also, like all of us like started our journey when we were younger, and I think because of that, like society issues, that like we've either like, right, like we're not disabled enough, but then when you tell people then you become a liability, and there's like a weird thing of like you learn how to navigate like who am I telling and what am I telling them to. And I think it took me, a long time to be like, oh, I do kind of have to tell you, I have this serious condition in case, something happens to me. And then you're like, what's going on with you? Why did you just fall on the ground and you're unconscious? So like it did take a while for like that to be a part of my identity and be like, hey, like like I can go advocate, but it is hard in that society thing when you are a young kid, because you start seeing how people are treating you, whether that's like adults or whether that's other kids your age, and they're like questioning you. And you're already fatigued from your heart condition, and then you're like, I'm exhausted of having to explain myself so much. And I think that's also the beauty of like, you see all of us, like we all come from different walks of life, but that we've had these same, like problems of like, fitting in, like every kind of kid does, but like what that means when you have a heart condition and you're trying to, fit in, but like navigate it, that then like the more we talk about it, the more that people can be educated to be like, hey, if I see a man who can't lift a table, let me not assume he's lazy and wants to get out of, helping. But let's think like, oh, hey, you could have a heart condition. And I think just normalizing it, because it has been hidden for so long. There's a reason we can all vibe, and you're just like, I know what you've been through, and I have so much empathy, and I, because of like having done it so young, and you kind of like, yeah, this is how I carry myself. And it is so beautiful to see that all of us now are in a place that we're so proud and we can talk about it, and we're excited to talk about it.
The other thing I wanted to say as well is, I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but I've lost quite a few friends and clients just from what I've been through. It's like it's too much for them to deal with, so they kind of just slowly disappear from my life. Because obviously you get really tired with a heart condition, and it's really difficult to sort of keep up with everyone all the time, and they'll just slowly disappear, and you never really hear from them again. I find that really quite sad, but I don't ever want to stop talking about it, because the more I talk about it, the more it becomes normal to people, and the more they understand, and the more they're gonna judge people less, if that makes sense. But yeah, I don't know if anyone else has experienced that kind of thing as well, or if it's just me.
Unfortunately, yes. To all those people who, yeah, who leave you because they're like, I just, yeah, yeah. Like, and like anything happens, with people like, oh, you might like, oh, somebody just lost their parent or they're grieving. Like, we're in a phase of grief, and it is weird that people pull back when you are going through grief, and I may not have been like the perfect friend, but I think it does put you in of like, wow. And I think that's the beauty of then like finding other like heart warrior friends where you're like, I don't have to explain why I ghosted you for 3 days, because girl, I've been having, a bad flare up, I've been at it. So it is nice to then find those kind of friends, but it is where you hope like, hey, I want people who maybe don't have to have all this trauma that they've been through to understand me, but yeah, it is disappointing that that is a common thing that happens.
Well, I would say, to all, even when it come to the friends, I actually had a friend. I was in the worst stage of my heart failure at this time, and she actually portrayed me in the worst way because she felt like I was acting funny and I wasn't her friend anymore because she hadn't heard from me in days. And I'm like, but you of all people have walked this journey with me, and you know that I'm on and off. You know that sometimes I'm up and then there's times that I'm down. But this particular time, I lost a friend because of it. So that is a real thing, and I have experienced that. And even for me, I I can say I purposely, when I was in high school coming up, dressed like I wasn't sick purposely because I did not want to be noticed in that way. But I did realize the older that I got, it worked it didn't work out for my good because I would get people looking at me crazy. Why does she need that? She looked perfectly fine. Or if I go into the grocery store and this particular time I want to go in a cart because I don't have the energy to walk. And I would literally have workers in the store stop me. Why are you in there? Do you need that? Or you're cheating to that? I'm like, and I would just not say anything because my response I knew wouldn't have been the best response. So I would just smile and drive off. But I've actually had workers to stop me and inquire why did I need to be in the cart and not push a basket before. Like it's cruel out here at times when it comes to the world of heart disease for us.
Absolutely. Julio?
Yeah, so I know this is gonna sound cliche, but those people that you lost, they weren't your friends. I mean, simply put, if somebody is a true friend, that is when they will be there for you the most because they know you're going through a thunderstorm, and even if they can't go through the thunderstorm with you, they'll be on the other side. So, good riddance. You want to go? Listen, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Especially those of us who have been on our journey a much longer period of time. Amy, it sounds like you're still kind of like an infant in this whole journey. So maybe that's difficult for you to ascertain or understand, but you're going to see that the more you go through things and the more changes, whether they be physical or emotional, you go through, you're just not going to care. You're going to be like, bye, see you later. You're not going to care because people who really care about you, whether it's family, friends, they're not going to abandon you. They're not going to leave you. So if they left you, dead weight gone.
Thank you. Well, now comes my next question about community among patients after talking about whether or not we are making ourselves invisible. To become part of a community, we have to identify with it. Here, we are identifying as scarred heart warriors. And our conversations today are meant to be shared, bring understanding, and build community with others who likewise identify. Years ago, as young heart patients who had each other, Hannah and I created Heart Charged for the other patients we knew who must be out there, who perhaps had no one else. What are your thoughts on community among patients, on its importance, how to achieve it, or whatever you have to share on this topic?
So I was diagnosed when I was 8 years old. This is back in 1998. The community was probably very, very small. It's even though it's the most commonly inherited form of heart disease, it's most people don't know about it. They never heard about it. It's a mouthful to say, right? So I think the community is so important. And honestly, until I found Heart Charge's Instagram page, I was like, does anybody else have this disease? I mean, am I the only one? Because nobody's ever heard about this. Lo and behold, there's a whole worldwide community of people that are in the same exact boat. I mean, they're sitting right next to me on the boat and I didn't even know it. So community is essential, not only because people can identify with us, well, we can help each other. Oh, I understand what you're going through. You know what I did, and this helps, you know, because we know what we're going through. As much as somebody who doesn't have any condition will say, oh, I understand, you may understand 90%, but you don't understand 100% because you're not going through it. So while I appreciate your solidarity, it's not the same as if I say, hey, Bethany, I'm so tired. And, you're going to be like, yeah, I know, me too. It's so hot down here. You know what I mean? So it's important that we have this community and we continue to foment the knowledge of having heart patrol, any type of cardiomyopathy to the world because there may be so many people that are undiagnosed and they just think that, oh, my blood pressure is just low. That's why I get dizzy when I stand up. Could be, but it might not be. So I think that's the most important thing is that we are able to bring the awareness. It's so important, especially for kids.
I agree. When I was growing up, I lived in a real rural area, so there was like me and my sisters that had heart disease, and that was it. And I mean, I'm 35, so you're talking about like the 90s. I know some of you are a lot younger, but we didn't have the information or the resources that we have now. Um, but we felt very isolated. Like we were the only ones in the world that had this condition, and nobody understood. Nobody knew we were going through. The other kids, didn't care. All they saw was like, why is he having to sit out? Why doesn't he do PE with us? Like, those kind of things. Nobody wants to feel alone. I mean, all of us know we felt that feeling of like, this sucks. Like, I'm by myself. Nobody understands me. Like, and then you find the community that does understand you, and you're like, I'm never alone again. So I think that right there is why it's so important because none of you will ever be alone again.
No, absolutely so important. And I also want to say, like, looking at all of us, I'm so grateful for the power of social media because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have, get to have met all of you guys and be able to be on this journey with you and have this community because of the positive impact that social media has created to make us and bring us together.
It's amazing like that like I can look around and be like I can call each one of you like a friend, you know, that like that's the power of like this and the fact that like we had to meet Julio even though we live in the same city through social media, which just shows you like the power that it has because even though we were like sharing our story and doing it, we were like not in the right part of Miami to be getting Julio to like hear us, you know, and like age difference and stuff. If I'll get a little cheesy or emotional now, like just hearing everybody talk, like for me, you know, and I think people who, you know, who've survived death had said it, like, why am I still here? What was my purpose? And having been able to make Hard Charge, I feel was the reason why, you know, I didn't die at 17 and being able to like do this and be able to create this community has meant so much. And I think in that way, it has been healing for when I feel and having a crappy day. Like literally like 2 minutes ago, I had like a quick little like arrhythmia and I was like, girl, not on this call right now. I don't have time right now. But like it just is like, okay, you know, like this community has been so healing for me in my personal journey. So in a selfish way, I'm like so grateful. It's helped me so much. But to be able to have just been able to give back and like, you know, like pay that forward of like what we would all, you know, like to have seen. And I think that's why we are such like pillars in this community and like we know that like if I was like hey somebody wants to talk to you that you guys would be willing to talk to them or help with whatever crazy project we came up with, you guys understand and can see like the power and you want that earning to pay it forward and to be able to provide people with what we all wish we had when we were first diagnosed and going through this journey.
I think the other thing is the community gives us hope. That's what it did for me, and it gave me like the encouragement and the motivation to sort of keep going. I don't know if I could have kept going if I was on my own. I don't know. Yeah, it's hope to me.
Love that.